Hello guys, this is Amara Kasuli and I'm doing something a little bit different today. It's going to be a 100K special Draw My Life. You guys may know me for my flair and such, but I do have humble beginnings, at least I like to think so. I'm originally French. I come from a town called Bonjour Town. Please don't search it up. I'm 60% sure I made that up. But at the age of 7, I did move to Canada. I can't really tell you exactly where, but I do know that there wasn't any polar bears. I grew up with a lot of money, so I had a lot of clothes, foods, toys, all that fun stuff. I was very spoiled. I would never really hear the word no a lot from my parents, but when it did happen, they would see me holding a knife to my throat. As a kid, I didn't have any friends. They weren't really big on my personality, and it wasn't a big problem for me to move. So basically, flashback to my immigration. I was on the ship, and at this point, I was very bored. I had thrown out my very last doll off the ship because it was too ugly, and I had nothing to play with. So I pick up a rat or two, and I play with them as dolls. So then I start coughing, and I cough up like a lot of blood, and I end up with this really sucky disease, and I have to start taking a lot of expensive medicine. I really liked the idea of it though, because it matched my expensive personality. As I grew older, I did become very detestable because like every 2 minutes, I would ring a bell beside my bed to call the maids, but they were always really had a smile on their face and it was their job. So now it's 10 years later and I pick up this cheeky little hobby called sewing, and I'm sewing this very cool dress, and by now I've like spent like days on it, barely coming out of my room in like deep concentration. But then I prick my finger and I'm thinking, hey, it's probably just a fork in the road. Let me just spam ring my maid. So she gets here, and I want to ask about my family because the house has been really quiet. And she tells me in her very own words, Dad, I got drafted. 1 year later, things start to get a little rough and nifty. My family starts flying through money because of higher prices, and I'm basically in the same tax bracket as one of my mates. We came from money, so the word job was a funny one-liner we throw around as a joke, and none of us had anything we could do as work, So we had to do what none of us wanted to do and sell our shiny cool things like our family heirloom, the gem-encrusted barf bucket. We organized a home yard sale, and after it was all set up, my mom goes to the kitchen to grab something, but she hears something clinking. She finds out that our very last remaining maid is stuffing a sack full of rich people things, and Mama Bear starts getting a little sick in the head with worry. The maid outdoes herself and comes up with the most brilliant idea to grab a fireplace poker and threaten to hurt my mom if she takes a step closer. Like, wow, okay. But Mama, bless her soul, she never was one to let go. So she ran and tripped over her set of veneers that my sister left, and the poker goes through her heart. So you might be asking what my reaction was. I didn't really have one until 5 days later. I was out of town with my brother Timothy to get my meds, and our journey was 5 days long. Can you guess how long it takes for a body to begin decaying? It's 3 days. You can imagine the look of horror on my face when I do find a woman who I didn't know was my mother until I wiped off a colony of rashes from her face, decaying all over our rich people stuff. So we buried Mom right out back beside our Jeffrey, the hamster that died from ingesting half a stick of butter, like obviously. And 1 year later, money is super tight. Okay, it's not looking too good. There was a point where I was happy to find a penny stuffed in my pocket, and now without Dada's money, I'm on my final pills, and I start taking only like half a day. It doesn't reflect well on me, honestly. My resume wasn't exactly polished. It was either get on my knees and make lead-infused paint in a factory, or I could become a seamstress. The decision was really a no-brainer. So I hear that the super rich lady wants a seamstress. So I go in for an interview, and she's like wowed by either me or the dress. I can't remember. So I'm hired on the spot. 2 months go by for working for her, and she tells me I can move in with her. But one teeny tiny bump in the world, my brother was now of age to get drafted. It's not really fun. You saw what happened when someone in our family got drafted. I became homeless. So I decided to disguise my brother as a mentally disturbed person. Until one day, Mrs. Boss needs a dress ASAP. She basically yells it at me. I'm really putting my hours into this one, and I perfect her dress so much, I would have kept it for myself if I really wanted to die. Mrs. Boss reveals to me that a prince is coming to see her because he wants to get married to her. Mrs. Boss tells me I cannot mess this up for her, and he's coming all the way from Europe. So she tells me, hey, you gotta be a boy for a day, and I do it, because like you would do for a check. Later in the day, I'm super duper tired. Eye bags are forming. It's not a good look. So I go into my room and I take my hair down for a minute, you know, like my nice curls and everything. But you know, God forbid I take a break and rest, because the prince walks across my room and he sees me and he notices immediately that I am the boy. Shortly after, I'm hoping he forgets, you know, because I don't know. But I'm like cursed with being so unforgettable. Like the prince just can't stop thinking about me. Shortly after, she needs to leave, and he's thanking the miss, and she's basically foaming at the mouth. And as he's leaving, he's ordering the carriage to go, and he's like thinking about me, and he's like, wow. She's like, wow. And he orders his carriage to go back because, you know, he realizes that he loves me. So he gets the bright idea to go ahead and climb my window and come retrieve me and run away together. Wow. Now, as flattered as I am, I have to get him to leave, because if Mrs. Boss sees me, and I'm like done for. But like, dude, she caught us, and I don't think I've seen her madder until she started smiling. That's not a good look. I don't think I've seen her smile that evilly. I don't know. And she told me that she had known that my brother was lying and that he was perfectly well. And since drafting was escalating and the king was like going bananas for like young boys trying to get them to the war, she was gonna call for them and get him drafted. Now you guys have a choice. You can either guess if I let him get drafted, or we both run away. Choose down below.